Welcome to A Writer's Perspective. It's my honor to introduce to you Meredith Bond, author of the Ladies Wagering Whist Society series. Meredith's books straddle that beautiful line between historical and fantasy romance. She's an award-winning author who writes fun traditional Regency and medieval Arthurian romances with a touch of magic. She is known for her characters who slip readily into your heart. She loves to take her readers on a journey they won't soon forget. Please join me in welcoming Meredith Bond. Thank you again for agreeing to meet with us here at A Writer's Perspective. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, and I'm glad you're back in the U.S., even though it's temporary.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I want to know, when did you first find out you wanted to be a writer?
Oh, that's a great question. I didn't know that I wanted to actually be a writer until I probably had written one or two books.
Okay. And then it hit you.
And then I was like, yeah, I think I would like to make a go of this.
Okay. Now I know you were a home stay-at-home mom at the
Yes.
time. You had two little ones.
So actually, it was when my second child was born that I realized that this was a really good excuse to put her in daycare.
It's okay. Totally understand. I'm an aunt of many, many nephews and nieces. So trust me, I saw what my brothers and my sisters went through with their little ones. So no judgment there. Your first book that you wrote, was it published or did you throw it under the bed and said?
No, actually, the very first book that I wrote was The Merry Marquis. And it won awards. It won the Golden Leaf from the New Jersey Romance Writers, and it won the Beaumont Award, which is what got me my first contract with Kensington.
Awesome. Now I know that you said that your mother was a big Georgette Heyer. I don't know if it's Heyer fan.
Yes.
I do like some of her stuff. I haven't read anything completely through yet because of time, but I do like her. Right after Jane Austen, kind of,
Right.
Even though she's more of a contemporary, meaning the period, even though she wrote Regency, right? She was a contemporary of Jane Austen's. So
Jane Austen wrote contemporary romance. She lived in the Regency, and Georgette Heyer lived in the 1920s, and so she was writing historical romance.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. It's a mouthful for me. So when how did your husband take it when you told him, I'm going to start writing romance?
Oh, he loved it. It was actually his idea to begin with.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Did he do it to sort of help you, have something to do while
Yes.
I stayed at home with the kids? Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah. Some husbands will be like, oh God, here we go. Drama.
No, he was very supportive. He loved to help me plot, still does.
Oh, wow.
Comes up with great names and great ideas. And he also read Georgette Heyer when he was growing up.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He loved reading them. And
so that's interesting for a man, though. I mean,
right.
Reading that kind of stuff. You have 5 series under your belt and more. I'm pretty sure they're coming out. I remember a long time ago, I read Magic in the Storm and I loved it. It was sort of like, and I don't remember much of it. I do remember the hero and the heroine, but I don't remember, was this during like King Arthur period or medieval?
That's a different series. That's my Children of Avalon series. My Magic in the Storm is part of my Storm series, which is Regency, but also with magic.
Okay, and then the other one after that was Storm in the Horizon or something like that?
So the first book of that series is Storm on the Horizon, and then is Bridging the Storm, and then Magic in the Storm, and then Through the Storm.
Wow. Okay. I don't know how you do it, but you're putting me to shame. Tracy Garner was putting me to shame too, because she's written over 15 books and has had 2 series, and she also wrote about a book on disability. So
Oh,
you
cool.
guys are like super women in this stuff. Your latest series is the Ladies Wagering Whist Society,
That's right.
which I'm sorry to say I wanted to read the first one, but I realized if I'm doing these interviews 1 to 2 weeks apart, a week or two is not enough for me to read a book per person. So I did borrow Deck the Halls. You know how Amazon lets you borrow
Oh,
like a chapter or two.
uh-huh.
And so I got hooked on this guy, and Charlie is the heroine,
Yes.
which I think she was named after her uncle Charles, if I'm correct. So I'm looking forward to reading that. So maybe during the holidays I can read one of Tracy's books and read Deck the Halls, which is a novella, and it's
Yes.
already out. Correct?
Yes, it came out on November 22nd, and it is a Christmas novella, part of the Ladies Wagering Whist Society.
Okay, and for the folks out there listening to this, I will be listing that in the description box for you to check it out. It got me hooked because it starts with the hero having an issue with his mother and aunt.
Yeah.
Okay, and so he has to summons the courage to ask these 2 ladies that are in a restaurant having tea or something in a tea shop to help him to figure out how he can reconcile his mother and his aunt. So I'm like really excited about it because I've never. Usually, you not yourself, but romance start with the heroine and her flight, her whatever, and then you go and meet the hero. But this time, and this one started with the hero and his issues, and I thought it was hysterical. So I'm excited to read that. So when you started writing, how did your family react? Your other family to you becoming an author?
Very supportive, very supportive. My father, he's hysterical. He doesn't read romance. He prefers, his mysteries but every single time I come out with a book, he says, "So when are you going to send me your next book? I'll read it." And then I'll say, a few weeks later, "Did you get it? Did you read it?" And he says, "Yes, I got it. Yes, I read it. It's not my thing. I don't like it, but I read it because you wrote it."
What a dad. What a dad. That's awesome. So for the Whist Society, the Ladies Wagering Whist Society, you have how many books on that one already?
So it started out to be a 9-book series, and then I've written 2 Christmas novellas as well. So we're up to 11 books or 10. Yeah, 11 books in that series.
Wow. So
and there's going to be one more.
These are not connected with each other, the characters, like in the Bridgerton series where they're based on each of the siblings.
Right. So the connection is that these are 8 ladies who gather every week to play whist, which is the precursor of bridge.
Okay.
So imagine these 8 ladies get together every week to play bridge, and they have 2 tables because it's, you have 4 people at a table to play, and they sit and they gossip and they get people together.
Okay, nice.
And so every book features one of the ladies of the Ladies Wagering Whist Society. Oh, and the wagering part is that with every game, they tally the points. And so every 2 games, the person with the lowest number of points has to divulge a secret.
Oh, wow.
A terrible, horrible, tight secret that they would never tell anyone. And the secret cannot be told to anybody outside of the Ladies Wagering Whist Society.
Where did you come up with this idea? That's amazing.
And so every book is about one lady and her secret. And there's always 2 romances in each book. There is romance between young people and a second chance romance or an older romance.
That's amazing. And let me tell you, intricate.
Yes. You haven't heard the intricate part yet.
Oh.
Okay, so it's 9 books.
Okay.
It is 3 trilogies, right?
Okay, right.
So each trilogy is 1 season. So each of each season, so each 3 books overlaps in time because they're held over 1 season. And so with all 3 books, for the first season, they were sequential. So each book took was about a month and a half. And then the last scene of the first book was the same as the first scene of the second book, etc.
Gotcha.
Okay, so they were sequential.
Yeah.
By the time I got to the 3rd season, all 3 books happened at the same time, overlapping. I just was tearing my hair out trying to make sure I didn't have the same people in 2 different places at the same time.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible. That is amazing. I've never heard of anything. I thought I had problems with my trilogy, but the stories continue with the second book and it continues with the 3rd book. And then you have to go back because you mentioned this one character, but you never. So that for me is hard enough. 8 ladies and 3 seasons and experiences. Oh my gosh! Do you keep like a book with all that?
I have a calendar. I have a huge calendar on my wall with every single scene and which book it's in and when it takes place.
Wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Hats off to you, girl. Hats off. That's amazing. Yeah. So luckily the kids are all grown up and out of the house. So you're an empty nester. So that'll keep you busy.
Yep, absolutely.
Wow. So as an empty nester, you do have then a lot of time on your hands to do a lot of writing, correct?
Well, I don't just write. I'm also an editor and book coach.
Yes, that was going to be my next to talk about, because in your website, you do have the book coaching, you have a formatting also that you do, and then you have a resources for writers. Right. So, wow. Okay. So
no, there isn't a lot of time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So how do you balance all that? How do you balance the writing and then the coaching and the formatting? Because you also done classes, right? I thought
I'm not teaching any classes at the moment, but I do. I teach online classes.
Okay.
As well. Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's get back to how do you balance that? Because even though you don't have kids and you have free time, that tells me somewhere along the way you have to be overwhelmed. So how do you keep track of all that?
I spend my entire day either reading or writing, and so I schedule it. Usually, I do my editing and coaching in the morning, and my writing in the afternoon, but since I moved to Ukraine, I've had to flip it because the afternoon there is morning in the US. And so if I need to meet with a client, it's going to be at 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock at night, wow, which is morning in the US on the East wow. Coast. And it gets worse if the further west my client lives.
Yes. So, but eventually you'll end up back in the US.
Eventually, in a few years, we'll be back in the US. But yeah, so I meet with clients and I do my editing now in the afternoon, and I do my own writing in the morning.
Okay. And then you start, yeah. Well, there are writers that have a full-time job and have children.
Yes.
I do have a full-time job. I don't have children, but by the time I'm done with my job, I'm just tired, so it's exhausting to try to get that energy to do some writing. So my writing has suffered a lot, even though I'm on book three, and I
That's
do have
great.
another. Yeah, I do have another fourth book. Is a standalone romantic contemporary thriller.
Nice.
So, and then I have a horror one after that I
Oh,
want to, yeah. So I don't want to be pigeonholed into just romance, but it is a romance horror, so I still have the romance. It's just different subgenres.
right.
So right now you're doing the Regency. Do you see yourself staying with Regency, indefinitely?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I really enjoy the Regency period. It's just so much fun. And I mean, the series that I'm writing right now, I have contracted with a small publisher called Wolf Publishing, and they asked me to develop a new series for them.
Okay.
And it's called the Royal Hearts series.
Oh, wow.
And so it's so much fun. So the first book is sort of like The Prisoner of Zenda, if you know that. It's about somebody who steps in for a royal who is incapacitated.
Yes.
And then is better at being a royal than the actual royal. So this is a English woman, a German princess in England goes missing. And so her doppelganger shows up just out of the blue, and they hire her to take the princess's place so it's lots of fun. It's a great fun book. And then the second book of the series is the princess's story. And it's a road trip book.
You are too much. That's amazing.
And then the third book is the princess's brother, the prince, and that's going to be a spy novel.
Oh, cool. Oh, you got to let me know when these are up, okay? So that I can announce and get them to read. Forgot my other question.
Sorry.
No. Okay, so how did you become in reading the Deck the Halls? I thought you had a pretty good command of the Regency period language, okay? Because for me, I can tell the difference between someone who's a contemporary, author like us, and then they start writing Regency, but they don't have the command like this, what I would call stiffness, okay, of the Regency, of the English language at that time. So how did you become an expert overall in the Regency period? How did you master that voice? Because I tend to not use a lot of contractions in mine. And
you should.
Yeah, no, I try not to, because I try, well, let me back up. I do have contractions, okay? But certain characters, I like to make them stiff. So I don't use contraction with them. I might slip once in a blue moon and have them use it, but I try to do, because I did research Jane Austen, and she does use contractions. So, I do implement it, but with certain characters, especially the males, I try to make them stiffer and not use contraction. So, I mean, and it reads well. I think it reads okay. I mean, it's not bad English. It's just that they're stiff. But you seem to have mastered the Regency period voice, So what did you do to prepare yourself for that? How did you research a lot in terms of the Regency period? Tell me a little bit about that.
A lot of reading of Georgette Hare and many other Regency novels helps a great deal. Reading the better Regency romance writers helps a great deal, because it gets the sound in your mind.
Gotcha.
The cadence and the vocabulary. And I've been writing Regencies now and researching. I mean, I still do so much research, more into the more specific topics that have to do with the book,
Okay.
whatever book I'm writing. But yeah, tons and tons of research. And I've been writing Regencies now for over 15 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And so you develop the
Yeah.
voice.
So you mentioned some of the higher Regency period writers, Georgette Heyer being
Georgette
one of
Heyer.
them. Who else do you read?
Oh, I read Sarah MacLean and Tessa Dare and Joe Beverly and Mary Jo Putney and Mary Baylog, all of the really the best, the classics
Awesome.
of the region. Julia Quinn, of course.
Oh, I love her. I love
Yes,
her.
of course, and she's got a great voice.
Yes, I haven't read any of the others.
Oh, they're such wonderful, wonderful writers.
Yeah.
They are.
I started out with Barbara Cartland.
She's the traditional one.
I started out with her in high school. That's what got me into the romance, Barbara Cartland. And then then from there I went into the Harlequins, but the Harlequins were more, actually there was some Regency.
There are some Regency Harlequins.
Regency, yeah.
Diane Gaston writes Harlequin Regency, and she's very good too.
Yeah, I hope to have her on sometime soon. I have to ask her if she's willing to meet with me. Okay, so let me ask you, who's your favorite? Do you have a one favorite Regency?
I don't. I love them all. I'm reading a Tessa Dare right now. Galen Foley is also a fantastic Regency writer. Love Mary Jo Putney. She is always really wonderful. Julia Quinn's characters are fantastic. Oh, they're all great.
Oh, do they have a lot?
I don't have a favorite.
Do they have a lot of sex?
Some do.
Some do.
Some do. Some don't. My books do not. My books are all sweet.
Yes, I like sweet. My three are sweet. I had a pitch interview with Random House at one of the WRWDC conferences, and I was telling her about my series. Lady Jane Bartholomew and Miss Margaret Renaud romance mysteries, and boy, she was just ecstatic. Her eyes got big. She was drooling. I tell this story all the time. She was drooling, and I could tell, oh my God, she's gonna want it, right? And so she says, "Does it have sex?" I said, "No." And her eyes went whoop, real tiny. The drool dried up, and I was like, "Oh, I lost it. I lost it." She said, "Are you willing to put sex in it?" I said, "No." The sex happens, you'll never know. Jane will go on her honeymoon, and we'll come back.
Off page.
So she said readers want sex.
Well, there are two camps. There are two camps of readers. There are some who really like sex, some who really want that to happen right there on the page. And I have had, my first book, the Mary Marquis, I did not have any sex in that. And when I got all of those, I got so many wonderful rejection letters, including a little sticky note saying, "No sex, we'll read anything else by this author." It's like, well, that's terrific.
Oh man, that's terrible. I refuse to change this series because I looked at it as Jane Austen meets Nancy Drew. And that's how I sell the books. When people ask me what's it about, and I said, imagine Jane Austen meeting Nancy Drew, and they both, fancy themselves as detectives. In those days, of course, they weren't called detectives. I think it was the magistrate, right?
Right.
The law. And so, and this gets them into trouble with the two guys. There's a solicitor who's sort of like a Mr. Darcy, very snobby, even though he's a duke, he practices law because he, and somebody says, but that's unheard of. That was, you couldn't do that in the Regency period. Well, this is world building. This is your book. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want. You believe it.
I have a Viscount who's a physician.
Exactly. There you go. Well, I think what I did, I might have taken Latham and I might have made him an earl. So I think I reduced them. I don't remember. I have to go back and look because of that. And I should have, I hope I stuck to the Duke. But, his father was a Duke and his father loved the law and his father didn't care, But Latham, the difference between him and his father was that Latham wants to go with society, wants to do what society says. And so therefore Margaret, she's, an albatross, the opposite of society. But anyway, so let's see.
The other thing is that there's another camp of readers who are much prefer to have no sex on the page. Lots of times they are more traditional sort of Christian inspirational readers,
Okay.
but they love the Regency historicals that are sweet.
Oh,
And
good to know.
yes, and so there are a good number of readers who don't want sex on the page. My mother-in-law, she loves reading Regency romance, but I ended up putting sex into the Mary Marquis because my editor asked me to. And so I did. And my mother-in-law read it and she was like, oh, all right. And I said, what, you don't like that? And she was like, been there, done that, not interested. Like, okay, I get it.
That's pretty funny.
So there are plenty of people who prefer not to have that in their books.
Okay.
And that's who I write for.
Right.
Most of my books are clean. Magic in the Storm has some sex in it. The Mary Marquis has some sex in it. Falling, which is a time travel romance, that has a lot of sex in it.
Now you have one of that series, right? The other two are out, not out? Oh, okay, because I went into your website and I didn't see a link for it.
Okay, I actually, in Falling, it's a series. It currently has one full-length novel and two novellas.
Two novellas, okay. I saw three covers.
Yeah, so the full-length novel, Falling, and then the second book is a novella that is a gay pirate time travel paranormal.
Oh, okay, cool.
And the third book in the series is also a novella. It's part of an anthology that we put together when COVID first hit.
Wow.
I was asked to write a book that dealt with the pandemic. And so I wrote, I think it's called Falling Through the Air. And it's part of the same series.
Okay.
So it's a COVID time travel
novella. Nice. It would be interesting to check those out too.
Yeah.
Do you as an author, do you see yourself pigeonholed into doing what the romance industry says? You have to stick to this. You can't do this. You can't do that. Because I'm the person that if you tell me you can't do that, guess what? I'm going to.
You're going to be doing that, right?
So do you feel you stick to that? Okay.
No, not at all, because I'm indie, and I mean I was traditional for a while, and I didn't like the fact that they were changing my titles, and I didn't like the fact that they were putting inappropriate covers on my books. And as soon as indie publishing became a thing, I jumped on it because I really prefer that.
Right.
And I mean, I'm dipping my toes slowly into the more traditional publishing with this new small publisher who I've signed a contract with.
Yes.
But even then, they're saying, okay, we need it by this date.
Yes.
This is the deadline. It's like, yes. And they wanted the book to be 80,000 words. Most of my books are between 70 and 75,000. And I said, well, what if it's shorter? They said, make it longer. And I was like, So I'm working really hard, but I'm not used to people imposing on me.
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean, I've had people tell me, you need to submit. I submitted, and after a few rejections, you know what? I decided self-publishing, And
And that way you can work at your own pace, where you can write your own story, however long you want it to be.
right,
You put together the cover or have a professional put it together, but you've got input. And
okay,
whatever title you put the book, you name it,
exactly,
it's that.
exactly. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Do you follow any type of writing template? And for example, you know how the book has to have the beginning, the middle, and then the conflict, and then
The structure.
the structure. Do you follow any particular structure, or do you have your own kind of structure?
I generally follow a W structure for most of my novels, but some fit more as a hero's journey or a heroine's journey. But mainly I start with the instigating event. There's a major turning point, which goes up to some rising action to a point of no return. And that's where the kiss is. And then there's the falling action leading up to the black moment, and then the resolution.
The resolution, good. Yeah, that's about what I follow. I've attended Sherry Adair's one of her classes, and I think she had the W as well. A lot of them do promote the W as the structure.
It's a really nice structure because you can do a lot with it.
Right, yeah. But I usually just I just write, and I know you have to have the beginning and setting up the story, and then you have to then set up the conflict and then work down to the resolution. So kind of
you need a black moment in there.
I do whatever whatever. In your section where you have the resources for writers, tell me a little bit about that. What drove you to provide, these kinds of services for writers? What do you like about it? What do you get out of it? And how do you create these things for people to help people with their writing career?
Right. So I have been teaching writing for so many years, since about 2006, 7.
Okay.
And so I have been developing materials for writers to help new writers learn how the craft of writing. So I also have a book that I used to use called Chapter 1, which goes through all the major pieces of writing craft. And from that, I started a blog. And so I've got a blog for writers and I always discuss some either piece of writing craft or something about self-publishing. That's published every Sunday morning.
Wow.
And I like helping new writers get going and seeing their dreams come true and getting published. And it's so wonderful to explain a concept to somebody and just watch the light bulb go off and say,
Right.
oh yeah, okay, yeah, I've seen that. Okay, I can do that.
That's amazing, because you have, it is amazing that you're able to do that. Tracy Garner does the same thing as well. It's a way to give back.
It is.
You notice that a lot of these authors, they don't do that. Not a lot of authors do that because they're focused, in their careers, and they just want to stay focused on their career. They don't have that angle. And it's not because they don't want to, maybe they just don't have the time or the desire to provide that kind of thing. This is why one of the ideas for this channel was to provide, not only to connect the readers to meet their favorite author, but discover new authors as well, but to provide the newbie writer, which what I call newbie, the tools,
Right.
to check things out. So there will be a link in the description box, folks, for Mary's writing resources for you to check out, as well as her books.
Yes.
What's
So I also, along the same lines, I started a podcast last year with Prue Warren, and we call it the Writer's Block Party Podcast.
Awesome. And that's still going on?
Yes.
Oh, send me the link. Send me the link for the information so that I can check it out. And I can also link it on the description box as well.
Yeah, that would be great, because so the concept behind that is I'm an old hand at this. I've been writing for so many years and teaching, and I basically know what I'm doing, I hope, although I'm always still learning. But and Prue Warren is a new author. She writes rom-com, and she published her first book in January, and she just recently published 3 more books this fall.
Wow.
Just, September, October, November, she published 3 books. And so the concept of the Writer's Block Party podcast is Prue has questions. And so she asks her questions and I try and answer them, and she questions me, and she's so incredibly intelligent. She keeps me on my toes.
Oh, yeah.
I will give her an answer and she'll say, well, what about that? And she'll question me, and she'll delve down really deeply into my answers. And we just have a great time talking about writing, talking about publishing. We have a lot of laughs. We just have such a wonderful time.
Great. That's great. So how do you deal with writer's block?
Oh, so many ways. I could talk to you for literally an hour.
Give me 1 or 2 tips. Give me 1 or 2 tips. If you can, or one tip for me and for the other writers.
The number 1 tip dealing with writer's block is to free write.
I've heard of that, and I hate free writing.
No, it's the best. Absolutely the best.
Really? So you just write as whatever comes to your head.
Whatever comes to your head. It can be a shopping list. It can be what you did yesterday. It could be what you had for dinner the night before.
Okay.
It could be how you're feeling.
Okay.
It could be stories that are percolating in your head. You just tell your journal about these things.
Okay.
And
all right, I'm going to try it.
Just getting going, just the act of writing. And a lot of times I recommend people actually sit with a pen and do it, because the physical act of writing also really helps.
Okay.
You wouldn't think so, but it does. So just write. And if you eventually get started writing what your story is about, very soon you will find that you are actually writing description or dialogue. And all of a sudden you are writing that story. You are writing that book.
Okay. So for me, my writer's block happens when I'm in the middle of the story. So would this work as well?
It would definitely work as well. Usually with seat of the pants writers, which is what you said you are, yes. The reason why you're facing writer's block is because you don't know where you're going next in your story. And that's when you have to pull out that W graph and your story structure and start actually plotting. And you don't have to plot in detail. You can just plot the major turning points, the main beats of the story, but just so that you know where you're going to. That's with pants of the seats writers. Most of the time they've hit writer's block, and it's not because you can't write. There are some people who actually they are having serious problems where they just cannot write. But for pantsers, usually the writer's block comes because you don't know where the story is going. And if you just give yourself a tweak of an idea as to where things are going, boom, you're off to the races.
Yeah, because that happened to me with my second book. I got to a point where I couldn't do anything. I couldn't think of anything. And so, and what's interesting with me is I'll have the beginning and I know how it's going to end, but I don't know how to get there. And so I start to write the beginning, and then I go and I get to that point where I'm like, what's next? And
Right.
so at that time when that happened, I was going on vacation to the beach. And so I sat, and it was off season, so it was nice and quiet. It was empty. I sat there and I just stared at the water.
That
And then,
helps.
yeah, and then I started thinking, rethinking the book from the beginning, and then all of a sudden it just, I got my next scene, and it was like, wow. And then I got the other scene. So, but I am going to try that. I'm going to try that because I am a pantser, and it works sometimes and it doesn't work sometimes. So I'm going to try that free writing thing and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
But yeah, I have some coaching clients who are they're just there for me to help guide them through.
Wow.
Accountability.
So that's what you do with your book coaching. And those are
That is one thing that I do with my book coaching. Yes.
What else do you do with your book coaching?
I will help new writers develop characters. I will help them develop plots. And I do a lot of craft of writing stuff. So somebody will send me a manuscript and I will fill it with lots of little comments saying, okay, you just switched POV here, make sure you stay in one point of view in the scene. And I have one client who loves to write, as you know, Bob, scenes, which drives me up the wall. Do you know the concept of as you know, Bob?
No, but I know the concept of changing point of view in the middle of the, because
yeah. An as you know, Bob conversation is where two people who know each other very well, a husband and wife or sisters or whatever, get together and say, well, you know, when we got divorced 12 years ago, you got the kids and I got the house. And it's like, why is this person telling them that? They know it. They lived it.
Oh, no, I don't do that. I don't do that. Yeah. Thank God. No, I don't do that. I do more, you know, I've had people say, you're not Nora Roberts. Stop it.
Don't head hop.
Yeah. Or if you insist on doing it, make sure there's a transition somewhere that says you change. So I've done better. I've done better with that. I have. Yeah. But I will, you know, I'll be in Latham's head and I'll be like saying, oh, you know, the woman is obstinate. She's proud and she's an albatross to society. Why would I be interested in her? And then, you know, then Margaret then I'll switch to Margaret and say something like, you know, he's too, you know, he's a rake and, you know, but I try to, you know, I have learned a lot. So I try to do a transition, but once in a while it will sneak. I will have a beta say, look, you're switching and you're not telling me who is who and what. So I try, you know, to work on it. So
yeah,
I'll keep working on it.
Keep working on it.
Yeah. So so what's next for you? What's next for you?
What is next is I've written the first book of my Royal Heart series. I'm just plotting. I'm a plotter and I plot in detail. So I am just plotting the second book of this series, the road trip book.
So when you plot, do you just like do number 1, number 2, number 3? Do you say this is what I want for this scene in one sentence, and then later on you go and you flourish it?
Yes.
And then this is what I want in the second scene?
And yeah, so I will like write 1 or 2 sentences per scene. And really what I'm doing, what I start off with doing is creating the characters. And so I know who these people are. I need to know what their goal, motivation, and conflict is. And so their goal, where they're going. And if I know where they're going, then I know how they need to grow along the way. Wow. So I need to think of ways for them to grow, scenes that will force them to grow. And so that's how I plot. I start with the characters, what their goals are, how they need to be by the end of the story, how they are at the beginning of the story, and the scenes, the incidents that force them to grow and develop.
Okay, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try the plotting. I'll let you know how that works out.
Yeah. If you plot, whether you plot before you start writing or after you have written,
The first draft.
there's a fantastic program that I use called Plotter, Plottr.
Really?
Yes, and it is just meant for plotting. And you can plot any way you want. You can do it on it's a timeline, and you can organize it however you want. I do, they suggest that you do chapters along the top, and the y-axis, the x-axis is
The scenes.
the characters.
Uh-huh.
So because my books overlap in time, I do by date.
Wow.
And then the characters, so that I'm making sure that everything works out with my overlapping books. And then you can fill in character sheets and put in information about the places where it takes place. And it's a great program. It's really wonderful.
Is it free?
No, it's a monthly subscription.
Okay. I'll check it out and provide the link below for anybody.
Yeah, it's a great program. It's really good. And they're improving it so that I just attended a seminar with them. They're putting it on the web so you can be on your PC and then pick up your iPhone and have what you were just doing on your PC, and then walk over to your Mac and it's right there as well. And so it's all going to be interconnected.
That's great. That's a good tool for writers.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we were still talking about what's next for you. So
for me, I'm writing book number 2 of my Royal Heart series.
Okay.
As soon as I am done book 3 of that series, it's going to be starting to come out in January of 23.
Okay.
So I've got a year before it comes out.
Okay.
I'm hoping before then to put out, I have sort of a bridge series, a spin-off series from my Ladies Wagering Whist Society called the Ryder Street Club.
Ooh, nice.
And so I'm gonna, as soon as I'm done my obligation for this publisher, I'm gonna start writing those books.
Oh man, that sounds nice. That sounds really nice. So any questions for me? Okay.
I don't think so, but I think this is a great idea, Lena.
Thank you.
I love this. I love this concept.
I hope to have you back again, though. So it's not like a one-time deal, because, we all progress and we all change. We all have new books and new information, that kind of stuff. So definitely would love to have you back. Let me know whenever you have like a new book that comes out so that I can post it. You're welcome. I'll post it on Facebook, and I'll post it and I'll add it to the video.
If any of your listeners are interested in learning more about writing, then they should please look for me on my website.
Yes, I will. Yes, go ahead.
So I don't know whether your audience is going to be more writers looking for writing help, or if it's going to be readers looking for something to read, but whichever it is.
Both. I hope it's both. I hope to have equal content for both. I'm looking forward to, I haven't done it yet, but I want to interview some literary agents. Mm-hmm. I also want to interview some editors, because I want them to provide writers their perspective of what they're looking for, how they function, balance the same thing, balance life with editing. One of my big questions as a writer or reader would be, why do you choose to edit versus writing your own books? And so I want to know, I'm curious, what is it about editing that you love? Literary agents, they can't, it's a career. I'm not saying that writing is not a career, but literary agent is more of a career in the sense that they look for the talent to provide, to connect with the publishing company. So that's a little bit different. Unless they have a love for writing, then I can see them switching to writing. Whereas an editor, reads and corrects. And so why aren't you writing? What is it about writing that you don't? And then you do have editors that do write.
Yes.
You have people that do both. So that's the kind of stuff I want to bring to the public. So thank you again so much for taking time. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you're back in the U.S. When are you going back home?
Mid-January.
Okay.
I'm back.
Wow.
I'm going back to Kiev just in time for the worst of winter.
Ooh, don't envy you. Don't envy you at all. So again, thank you so much. A big thank you to Meredith for taking time from her hectic schedule to visit a writer's perspective. For more information about Meredith, please check out the description box below for links to her website and books. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button below for future interviews about romance and women's fiction. Until then, happy holidays and keep on reading and writing.